favorite topics, Japanese anime. I'm an art historian by training, and I work on the art primarily of Southeast Asia, but as I was doing my studies, I also got interested in the art of Japan. I've been fortunate enough to live in Japan, and never understood why when I took the train there were men in their business suits reading comic books. I didn't get that back then. Wasn't until many years later, when my stepson was about 10 and Pokemon came into being in the U.S. or popularity in the U.S. that I started to get interested in anime, and as a result designed a couple of classes that I've taught at ASU. In fact, for any of you who have to be going to ASU in the fall of 2014, I'm going to be starting an online anime course. It'll probably be offered every fall. Before we get started on today's topic, I'm going to put a little plug in for the Phoenix Art Museum. I was supposed to wear my t-shirt, but I felt kind of funny. The Phoenix Art Museum will be sponsoring the Smithsonian's Art of Video Games exhibition. It opens June 16th and runs through the middle of September. So for those of you who are gamers, it should be a lot of fun. I've seen the catalog, and it really starts with the very beginning of video games and goes through contemporary time. I noticed that they have a full-page ad in the back of your program advertising it. So it should be a lot of fun, a lot of interest. They're going to have computers set up for people to be able to actually play different games. It should be a lot of fun, so I hope I get a chance to see you there as well. As I said, today we're going to look at the roots of some popular culture icons, anime and manga, using the idea of the samurai to talk about how anime and manga didn't just come into being with the arrival of our buddy here, Pikachu and Ash, or buddies Pikachu and Ash, in the 1990s, but instead they're part of an artistic tradition that extends back more than 1,000 years in Japan. We'll do this by looking at the samurai, an iconic figure in Japanese history, literature, and art. I assume most of you in here are anime or manga fans. I'm going to use the terms interchangeably, just because of that chicken and egg thing of which came first. How many of you might consider, well, most of us in America know anime, many of us, are introduced through the works of Hayao Miyazaki. We see here just a couple of his more famous stories. My Neighbor Totoro, my personal favorite anime of all time. Spirited Away, which won the first Academy Award for animation. And Ponyo, I haven't updated it to include From Up on Poppy Hill. I didn't pull an image from that. How many of you might consider yourself to be otaku? If I asked you if you're an otaku, how many of you would raise your hand? I would not, okay? Otaku is a rabid fan term. It's kind of like those of us who are rabid Trekkies will acknowledge. Super fan. It started out as a very negative term, used to describe what we might in this country call a nerd, wearing pocket protector. But over time, it's really evolved to a very positive term, signifying a general fan. This image comes from the film Otaku no Video. For those of you who how many of you have seen Otaku no Video? Okay, it's a part animated, part live action film about founding of Gainax. And I would recommend it highly if you haven't seen it. I've seen it. It's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So he's kind of our quintessential otaku. Now, as you all, as fans of some sort or another, know, anime didn't just spring into being with Pokemon or even Sailor Moon, for those of you who are a few years older and remember when Sailor Moon came to America. Rather, it's got its roots in the art of what we call medieval Japan, or Heian era Japan. Heian era dates to about 794 to about 1185 AD. So about the time of the Middle Ages here as well. During this time in Japan, artists turned inwards. They rejected all things Chinese, which had been a very big influence on Japanese culture up to that time, and all things Korean, another very important influence, and turned into their own native style. In art, they developed what we call Yamato A, which is native pictures. And there are two formats. Onna A, or women's paintings, and Otoko A, or men's pictures. And these translate through today into modern anime. Onna A, or women's paintings, are characterized by using bright colors, flowing lines, a lot of elegance, a lot of gold paint. They typically illustrate novels. In this case, The Tale of Genji, which was the first novel ever written in the world, dates to the year 1000 AD. It was written by a woman, Murasaki Shikibu. She was one of the attendants to the empress in the Japanese court. And she wrote a story about an illegitimate prince named Genji and his many liaisons. It's really a soap opera. If you've ever read it, it's about 1,000 pages long. And it chronicles court life and Genji's adventures. It was a very popular novel. It still is today, and it's still made into films and still published. In the 14th century, it was illustrated in